Well, hey there, friends. It's Chris from the Rate the Record podcast here, and I'm so sparse with these now, but they gotta happen sooner or later. It's the new music review. I've heard 3 brand new songs. I've got opinions about them. I want to share them with you. I want to hear your opinion on them as well, because that's how this whole thing works. So I guess that's something that we should, probably go ahead and do. But that's not before I wheel over here and remind you to like and subscribe, like the video, and subscribe to the channel so you keep getting more content like this, plus the podcasts that I do. The support really means the world to me, so if you go ahead and do that, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now on with the review. So first up on the list today, we have the Smashing Pumpkins, the alt-rock post-grunge band out of Chicago, Illinois, just recently dropped their 13th full-length studio album back at the beginning of August called Agori Mori May. Listen, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. But regardless, it's out, and the single that they just released for it is Sighommi. That one I think I'm saying correctly. It definitely has some qualities of the band's older material going on in this, and I believe Billy Corgan himself even said it has material that's reminiscent of Siamese Dream and Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. It's far more guitar-driven than I thought it was going to be, considering that some of the more recent works have kind of sort of ventured away from that, and so it's nice to hear this return to form. It's a little catchy in certain regards, but there's nothing really too grabbing about this song. It's just a very short, generic, straightforward style of rock track, which I guess there's nothing wrong with initially. I mean, you could still enjoy it for that, but as a single, I was expecting a little something more from it, but I personally just didn't get that. And overall, I can say it's not necessarily bad, as I've kind of already alluded to. It sounds nice, but just it's not all that interesting. And I mean, I haven't heard the entire album yet, so maybe this is just a smaller piece to a much better puzzle. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to take the time to do that. We will see. Next on the list today, we have A Place to Bury Strangers. They're an experimental, noisy, post-punk revival kind of band out of Brooklyn, New York. And they have a brand new album coming out this October. It's their 7th, and it's called Synthesizer. And this offering that they've given to us is called You Got Me. This track has a really good, lively pace to it, so it's nice just to kind of keep the energy flowing and everything like that. A lot of the typical jangliness that you get from the post-punk revival style, and like the jangle pop, even if you want to mix that in as well. But there are also sprinkles of layers regarding the guitar that definitely have, or at least sound like they have a more digitalized quality to it. So that's probably the more experimental side, or maybe it's just the way it sounded in the mix, I don't know, but regardless, it felt a little different to me, so I did like that. And of course, everything is soaked in reverb, as you would anticipate, but it kind of gives it that bigger, more expansive feeling, and it's actually kind of nice. And I can really leave it there too, because overall, I mean, it is a decent track. It's not the most exciting. There's not tons going on with its runtime, but at the same time, it's energetic. You can dance to it for sure. And I mean, it's a nice one to have on in the background, so I don't really have too many other bad things to say about it. Again, kind of hoping a little more out of a single, but I guess in this kind of style, you kind of can't anticipate too much. And finally, on the list today, we have the alt-rock band Live. I don't honestly know which one it is, and I've not known for decades, but regardless, they are an alt-rock band out of York, Pennsylvania, and they're back on the scene. They haven't released an album since 2014 or a single since 2018, but here we are now. We get a brand new one, and this one has a very unassuming title to it. Lady Bhang, She Got Me Rolling. Right off the top, I'll say I added this band to the list today because they're a band I've been aware of, and I mean, a lot of people my age are aware of the album Throwing Copper from the 90s, which was one of their biggest pieces, and I remember the song Dolphins Cry came out in like 99. I used to like that when I was a kid, so I was like, I haven't heard this band in a really long time. Maybe I'll jump in and see what it's like, and boy, do I regret my decision. But of course, when haven't I regretted decisions here on the NMR once in a while, you know? Super generic, poppy, bar rock, like poppy, yeah, it's a bar rock is probably the best way to call it, poppy bar rock, just because that's what it is. Damn near butt rock. I don't know, very few things about the song actually had me interested at any given point in this entire song. For the most part, altogether, the vocals sound just super unenthused and uninspired and uninterested and just nothing to really write home about. I mean, towards the end of the song, he gets a little more lively with his voice, but it's like too little too late, and so even instrumentally, there's not much here really convinced me overall that this track is actually worth it. And you know what? That's exactly where I'm going to leave this. Overall, leave this one at the bar. Far fewer regrets next morning, I promise you. And that's all I have for the new music review today, so thank you very much for checking this out with me. And if you did indeed check this out with me, let me know down in the comments below of what you thought about these songs. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you agree or disagree with me? I'm curious to know your opinions. You've listened to mine, gotta hear yours. That's how this whole thing works, so please go ahead and do that. And aside from doing things like that and liking and subscribing and everything like that, you can check out everything that you need to do over at ratetherecord.ca. That is ratetherecord.ca. All the streaming links for the podcast, the social media links, merch links, join the RTR Club for $3 a month. You can check all of that out over at ratetherecord.ca. Speaking of the podcast, been rolling right along with that one, so it's been very fun to do so far. Been having a great time reviving this and everything like that. Rolling right along, next week at the point of releasing this particular NMR is actually technically the anniversary week of Rate the Record podcast for the entire week. So, I mean, Monday is going to be episode 112. It's going to be different. I'm doing Deftones' White Pony. It's kind of an early kind of a hint towards that, or not hint, spoiler towards that, I should say. So there you go. 112 is White Pony, but then on Friday the 30th, episode 113 drops, and that's the anniversary episode for Rate the Record. And if you've been around the podcast long enough, you know that the anniversary episodes mean Pearl Jam, and this time around, it's the 4th Pearl Jam album. It is No Code. What did I think about it? How is it going to live up to all the other Pearl Jam albums that have been done on the show so far? You'll have to tune in next week for 2 new episodes, and maybe some bonus content sprinkled in through the week. Might want to follow the social medias for that one, and hopefully I can speak properly by that time. And again, speaking of the podcast too, just in case you missed it, this past Monday was episode 111, a brand new episode of a brand new album that just dropped recently as of, again, this episode. And that album was Mushroomhead's Call the Devil, a band I used to really like back in high school. Haven't really fully listened to them since like 2006, so I figured, hey, I'll give them a try. Let's see what happens. What did I think of it? Go back to that episode, find out. You might be pleasantly surprised or not surprised. I don't know. That's for you to decide. And that's all I got now. I'm not going to ramble too much further. So once again, thank you very much for checking this out. And make sure that you're tuning in next week for the anniversary week of the podcast. Hurrah! So until I see you then, go listen to some awesome music. Take care, friends.